5, 4, 3.
Let's you slowly go back.
Good evening and welcome to the Monomoy Regional School Committee meeting for Thursday, January 29th at 6:30. I will call it to order at 6:30 p.m. The first item on our agenda is to adjourn to executive session with a roll call vote to adjourn to executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A Section 21A2 to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel and review central office job descriptions. Regular open meeting session to resume at approximately 6:45. Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Seabret Long?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
And I'm an aye, and we will adjourn and we will resume at approximately 6:45. Hello, we have just come out of executive session where we will continue our regular scheduled meeting. The next on our agenda is the approval of minutes from January 15th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Excellent. Moving on to public comment. Do I have anyone for public comment? Seeing none, I will move right along to the reports and discussion, and our first item under that is our Superintendent's Award for Academic Excellence. It's one of my favorite nights of the whole year.
All right, so I guess before I get started, let me invite Thomas Chase up to the lectern.
Mom and Dad, you guys can come into the regular audience. And sister.
You can come any way you want.
You can go.
Yes, right in front.
All right, so here's my little spiel about Thomas. Sorry in advance for any sort of public embarrassment that I may be causing you, Thomas. Each year I have the honor of presenting one Monomoy Regional High School senior with the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Award for Academic Excellence. This award is given to the high school senior who has distinguished themselves in the pursuit of excellence during their high school career. In selecting the award winner each year, I look not only for success in the classroom, but for demonstrations of leadership and initiative within the school and the greater community. Monomoy counselors and administrators help with the selection, and for the 2026, the team has selected Thomas Chase to receive the award for academic excellence. I want to share some of the highlights of Thomas here at Monomoy, which include comments from his counselor. There's just no way to capture what an amazing young man that Thomas is. Currently holding the #1 spot in his senior class, there's a great possibility that Thomas will be the valedictorian come June. Thomas has always impressed me with his academics and drive, but more than that, his character. He is truly the nicest, kindest, and most humble of men I've been fortunate to work with and learn from. In addition to his academic achievements, Thomas is a leader in our school community, very active in our Project Lead the Way program. Thomas knows his future pathway will be as an engineer and has taken advantage of the coursework that can help him achieve his goals. Last year, an engineering teacher was on leave. Thomas took it upon himself to learn the curriculum and teach not just his class, but assist other sections as well. He would learn the material, write the lesson plans for the substitute teacher. No one asked him to do this, but Thomas did it and knew that there was, valuable time would be lost if he did not step up, and he did step up. Thomas took his love for robotics and engineering from our middle school. Thomas coordinates with the middle school staff since November 2024, travels to Monomoy Regional Middle School before school to help middle schoolers learn robotics prior to starting his own school day. Thomas has created a wonderful mentorship program that he will be passing on, truly leaving his mark. Thomas has a full plate outside the classroom. He is an athlete and a scholar. He's a teacher and a student, a leader and uniter. Thomas is the class president of the senior class, earning respect of his peers to be elected to this position. He's captain of the golf team, captain of the robotics team, an officer on student council, and most notably, an Eagle Scout through the Boy Scouts of America. In his 10th year, Thomas's Eagle Scout project consisted of building a 350-foot fence for a Civil War memorial in a local cemetery. I must also mention that he was one of 2 students chosen in 8th grade for Project 351, completed the FBI camp in the summer of 9th grade, and in 10th grade was nominated to participate in the Hobie program. He has also squeezed in a school STEM trip to Japan in spring of 2024, has been the recipient of the Harvard Book Award, the AP Scholar with Distinction, and Math Department Award. there's no doubt that he has put the work in. Outside of school, Thomas has worked alongside his father, a master electrician, for the past 5 years as an electrical apprentice, and will enter college with more work trade experience than many of his peers. What is more important than his resume is his character. He takes pride in all that he does, treats people with so much respect. He is just one of the most mature, kind, talented students I've ever worked with. Without Thomas is going to make our world a better place. He's an incredible young man. So, Thomas, the big award.
Thank you.
So, here's your certificate for academic excellence, Thomas.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Much deserved. And now for your acceptance speech. Did I mention that?
I can give it. I just want to shout out my parents. I feel like they do it all, and I'm not here without them, and all my friends and family that helped me get here to where I am. Can't do it without you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thomas, have you made any decisions about next year?
Not yet, no. I have an interview with Princeton in a couple weeks, and yeah, we're gonna re-roll back into MIT, and we're gonna see how we do.
Awesome.
Excited.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
What's your handicap?
Like 11. Yeah, nothing crazy.
Yeah,
I do.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you, guys.
All right, moving right along, under reports and discussion to the vote on the superintendent's contract. We had an executive session to review the final contract after the process of hiring, the full process of hiring a superintendent. We then continued to negotiate the contract with Robin Millen to determine all of the different pieces of the contract. We came to an agreement last week. It was brought to our full committee in executive session tonight. We had a roll call vote that was unanimous. And so now I just need a motion to vote to approve the superintendent's contract.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Dr. Robin Millen's contract for superintendent of Monomoy Regional District Schools.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, excellent. Congratulations, Dr. Millen. All right, moving right along to MRHS track field trip to Pennsylvania for the Penn Relays. Hi.
Hi. Thank you. Karen Gilmet, Athletic Director. And Coach City, I have Coach City with me and some of our track athletes. When we hired Coach City a few years ago now, he came in and the first thing he said was, at some point I would like to take some of our students to the Penn Relays, and I didn't even know what they were. So he has done a phenomenal job elevating our program. With your support, we added indoor track, and that has been awesome. We have 58 student athletes participating in indoor track in our first varsity season, so all of it leads to them being better prepared for their spring outdoor season as well, and he has taken our athletes to higher levels and push them to be the best they can be. And with that, we have some relay teams who can compete at a national / international level, and that's what the Penn Relays offer. So it would be for our boys and girls 4x100 and 4x400 relays. Coach City and our newly hired spring outdoor girls track coach, Sophie Brzezinski, will be taking them. It is over April vacation, so they won't be missing any school, which is nice. They would be gone for 4 days over April break, taking the school van, driving down there. They would, the track money they raise would cover the cost, the entry costs, and then the student athletes would pay their own way or fundraise to offset some of those costs in the meantime. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for the student athletes, for a coach, but mostly for them to not just compete, but also be able to see an extraordinary event. So Coach City can tell you a little bit more about that, as he was just kind of explaining it to me, and it sounds pretty awesome. I wish I could go. So, Coach, if you want to come up and talk a little bit more about that.
So I'm back again from last year, and just as Karen mentioned, thank you guys for approving indoor tracks. These are some of the indoor athletes, who were, hoping to get that, and they've had a phenomenal season, and I can speak for them. They're all very appreciative of it as we head towards our league meet and state meet. But yeah, the Penn Relays is a phenomenal experience. As a high school athlete growing up in Buffalo, New York, my coaches took me as well to this meet and drove us all the way down there, and it really changed my perspective of the sport when I got to Franklin Field in West Philadelphia, and suddenly you're in a stadium full of people. One side of it, and it's like a football stadium, it's half of people from America. There's a big Jamaican contingent that comes down for the Penn Relays, and all of a sudden the entire stadium is cheering for you there, and you're down there in line with people who are some of the fastest in the world, and you're running against them, and it's just really fostered the love for my that I sort of found for my sport from that point forward. And ever since then, as a coach, I lived in the Philadelphia area. My teams would always go there every year, and it was just a great experience. And whether you're the fastest team there or whether you're just one of the teams just getting a great experience, it's exciting. The crowd is going to cheer for you regardless. And as a kid, I think it's a defining experience from hey, I'm in a stadium full of people, I'm down there on my own, I've got to mentally be sound, physically I have to trust myself that I'm going to go out there and they're going to put 20 people on the line and the gun's going to go off and I'm just going to have to go, and I'm going to have to trust in everything that I've done, plus my teammates to get that baton around the track. So I think there are so many opportunities for growth going to something like this. These are kids who often sacrifice their breaks to be here. Over that time, they don't always get to go on some of those international trips and things like that, because during the spring season we have meets typically, or during the winter the state meet is coming up right before the break. So I think this, for these kids who have put in the hard work over the last few years, would just be a phenomenal sort of cap experience for them to get to go down there and experience the best track and field from a high school standpoint. Almost, I would say, in the entire world. It's probably the best track meet in the world to go to ever.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a comment that I feel like it was less than a year ago that you were here talking to us about indoor track, and I remember being like, wait, they train in the hallway? And I remember being so flabbergasted by that. And it's remarkable to me the amount of kids that have come into this program that we didn't earlier identify the need for, but you did. And the fact that in that short time, you're able to take 10 kids that qualify to go do this. It's unbelievable, and it was an untapped talent within our district, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm proud of them for doing this. It's incredible. This experience alone sounds incredible, and the fact that our district can get them there and support them doing it, it's exposure that some people only dream of. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you to the amazing athletes. I haven't been able to see you run around the hallways, but I know there's a lot of you. And it's just thrilling to add something new to our athletic department, and to the athletes, keep advocating for yourself, keep advocating for future athletes in this specific discipline. It's a great thing to carry through for the rest of your life. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? We don't have it on to vote tonight. Is it okay to wait 2 weeks?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that all right? And then we can vote, it'll be right before February vacation?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Keep working hard.
Thank you, will do, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
All right, next on our agenda is digital accessibility.
Hello. It's kind of anticlimactic after all the fun kids stuff here, but I'll do what I can. Joy Jordan, Community Engagement Coordinator for the district. One of my responsibilities is our website and digital communications platforms. And much like our physical spaces have guidelines that ensure access for a wide variety of people, our digital spaces have that as well. And it's important to make sure that those digital spaces have the characteristics and tools that allow a variety of people to access them. It's something that is embedded in our mission, our vision, our strategic plan. I like to think it's also a moral and ethical obligation for us to do. If you want to do the next slide. It is now also a legal requirement. The Department of Justice issued some guidance. It's called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Most people call it WCAG, which just rolls right off the tongue. But they have instituted these new guidelines that are much stricter than what had been in place previously. They broke it into two size groupings. So entities of 50,000 people or greater have a deadline of this April 2026. 50,000 people fewer is April 2027. So we fall into that second group, which is good because we can learn a lot from these bigger communities going through it this spring. It does not just apply to public schools, it applies to any governmental entity. So local governments, state governments, public libraries, recreation departments, parks departments, everybody is going to have to adhere to these guidelines. There are a couple of different ways that you could get in trouble for not following these guidelines. The Department of Justice themselves could do an audit and file complaints. Many of them have fines of tens of thousands of dollars. Individuals can also file a complaint, could result in the same sort of audit and fines. So there is, actual tangible resources at stake, but as I said, it's the right thing to do regardless of that. And most of the guidance is going to focus on making sure digital tools are accessible for people that might be deaf or hard of hearing, blind or low vision, or have mobility that means they can't maybe navigate with a mouse and need to use the keyboard, things like that. So that's most of what it is centered around. What does it cover? Everything, essentially. There's a lot of words up there, but it will cover websites, digital communications tools, any apps that we use, any payment platforms that we might direct people to, any curricular materials that we have students use. And it does not apply just to students, it applies to students, families and community members, and staff. So there are no carve-outs for, sort of internal communications. It is everyone. So it's really wide-reaching, and it touches on just about everything we do. Next slide. And I don't want to scare people, because much of the work that we need to do and the changes that we need to make actually benefit everybody. And this slide just talks about the curb cut effect, which if you're not familiar with it, it's just that concept that if you use universal design to make things accessible for one cohort, you're generally making things easier for everybody to use. So the curb cut is an example. You put it in a sidewalk to make crossing easier for people that might use a wheelchair, but it makes it easier for people using a stroller or wheeling luggage or a delivery person. So a lot of these changes will help everybody be able to access our information a little easier. This is just another reminder of that same concept, that a lot of these barriers are, they can be permanent, they can be temporary, they can be situational. There could be an issue where you need to use closed captioning on a video because you are hard of hearing. You could just be in a noisy room and not be able to listen to the audio on a video, so you need closed captioning. So again, it's that idea that a lot of this will just make things easier for everybody to consume our information. This talks about some of the specific issues that we'll be looking at. Translation is something that we've been working on a lot. Well, I will back up for 1 second. Since this is information coming from the government, some of it's not super clear. Those of us that are working in this space have been talking about this for the last year or two. I'm in a lot of PLC groups with other counterparts, doing a lot of trainings. I'm taking an online course right now, and a lot of us have the same questions. What exactly does this mean? What exactly has to be covered? It's not super clear, but it is interesting that it seems like translation is not actually covered because it's being multilingual is not actually considered a disability, which makes sense. But it is, again, something that we have been focusing on as a district for accessibility and equity reasons. So I'm including it here, even though kind of technically it might not fall under that ADA requirement. But it's things like using descriptive links, making sure color contrast on anything on a website or digital presentation has enough of a ratio that it's easy to see, even if you might be colorblind or have low vision. Using document and page structure so that if somebody is using only their keyboard to navigate instead of a mouse, they can tab through to the section that they want to get to, and things are tagged as headers, and it makes it easy for them to understand the document. Alt text on images, and that's the text description that you put with any image that is shared online. And that, so if somebody is, again, using a screen reader, the screen reader will read the alt text and it will say, you know, young girl holding a basketball. And then they'll know what that image is conveying to them. Content and typography, this is a little more nebulous because it brings into consideration some of the things that a lot of us are guilty of, like using a lot of jargon or acronyms, or writing at a level that maybe isn't accessible for people of varying literacy levels. So it's writing for like generally a 6th grade audience is the recommendation. So some of it is not technical, but it's thinking about the content and how we're presenting it. Same with typography, you know, it's things like avoiding fonts that are overly ornate and it might be harder for people to read or harder for screen readers to use. I talked about captions on videos. These are just some of the principles that are used. I'm not going to go into detail because I really don't want to bore you guys with all of this stuff. And this just kind of is the counterpart to the slide before. Just talks about some of the challenges that we're looking at. If PDFs aren't created properly, a screen reader can't navigate through them, can't translate them. We have some external sites that are linked on our website, maybe a department or a program. Those we can't guarantee accessibility, so we're working on moving those back over to our website. Again, I won't read the whole list because a lot of it's technical stuff, but it gives you an idea of the kinds of things that we'll be looking at as we move forward. So specifically for us, our website and our communications platforms both have built-in tools, and that's something that we considered when we moved over to them a few years ago. So we're actually in pretty good shape for that basic platform that we're using on both parts, website and communications. PDFs are really hard for accessibility, and everybody loves PDFs. So there's a lot of places where we're looking at how can we share this information in a way that's going to be accessible. It's a work in progress, but luckily we have a lot of time, and we'll be learning from some of the bigger entities that are going through this spring. We will need to incorporate a step in all of our procurement where vendors will certify that, you know, their tool, their platform meets accessibility standards. And again, certain things like the school committee packets are big PDFs that are not accessible by most of those criteria that we talked about. So we're working internally to look at different ways to have a workflow that still gets everybody the information they need, but does it in a way that's accessible. And this just gives kind of a really high-level project plan. I have a lot more detailed information, and I have some training materials for staff that I'll be working on, and some of this has already been done, things like our handbooks and our policies. I made a point to move to web content a few years ago, so those are accessible instead of just being like a giant PDF that's posted on the website. So some of this is already done. There's a plan for it moving forward. Again, there are still a lot of questions and a lack of clarity on exactly what these guidelines are going to look like and how the Department of Justice is going to ensure that we're meeting it. So, I'm doing lots of learning and lots of research, and I think we're well positioned. Right now, I don't see any kind of ask of you folks, any request. This is just purely informational at this point. Obviously, when anything like this happens, a lot of companies come out of the woodwork and say, you can pay us to do this for you, or you can buy our tool to do it for you. I don't think we need to consider that right at this point. I think we're a small enough district. I think we have things in pretty good shape. I think the fact that we are in the second cohort and can learn from the bigger groups that will have that April 2026 deadline, I'm pretty optimistic about where we'll be. So that's really it. I just wanted to inform you so you knew that this was going on in the background and that we're working on it, we're well aware of it, and we're taking the steps that we need to take to be compliant. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know I went over the technical stuff really fast because I didn't want to bore everybody and prolong this meeting anymore, but I'm happy to talk about it in detail if anybody has questions.
Questions?
Joy, I just have a question. Existing curriculum that we've already purchased, if that's not compliant,
That's one of those questions.
okay.
And
That we're going to find out.
my understanding is it will have to be by April 2027. But
Can they require us to buy another $300,000
And again,
ELA?
this is part of where those conversations with the vendors come into play, because again,
Hopefully they're catching up.
right, these
like we
vendors
are.
are going to be asked this question by every school district they work with. If they're not school-specific, if it's some sort of tool that works for, town governments or state governments. I mean, DESE has an entire team that's working on this right now.
Okay.
Everybody is kind of trying to move forward to the best of their knowledge at this point. And, again, a lot of unanswered questions, and we're just all trying, I'm on at least a meeting a week with other folks that all have the same questions and trying to get some clear guidance.
Thank you.
Brad?
Joe, I'm just curious, under the section, what does it mean for Monomoy? And I'm just wondering, new processes and workflows for the school committee agenda. Just, for example, what would that be?
So one example might be, the way it's done right now is our website, it lists the meeting information, the time, the location, and then it links a PDF with the agenda and the supporting documents. It may be the case that we need to still provide those to you folks, but have the actual text of the agenda on that webpage as well, and have the supporting documents linked in a way that they are accessible. Like right now, it is a PDF of scanned, agenda document, and then whatever the presentations are, and it's scanned in a way that it's not accessible.
Got it. Okay.
And so we may have to change the way we do that to put the actual text of the agenda in the same page that the time and location is at, and link the documents differently.
Great, thank you.
But again, I'm talking to, because again, every meeting I have, everybody says, what are you doing with your school committee stuff? What are you doing with your financial documents? These are big, clunky documents that are a challenge, and so everybody's trying to kind of figure out what the best way to do that is.
Any other questions? All right, keep us posted.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along to the change of firms for our school district's council. So, Dr. Carpenter, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but
Sure.
I know that we've been working with Mark Terry for many years.
Correct. So so Mark Terry has been the school district's general counsel for, I think, at least 9 years now. I received a phone call from Mark, and there's a letter in your packet that Mark is still practicing law, but he is shifting from the law firm of Merrick to the law firm of Stoneham, Chandler, and Miller. So the school committee has took a vote years ago to have Mark be your general counsel, largely for your labor, help in contract negotiations and any other labor issues. But it was also with Mark Terry, with Merrick, and now he's with a new firm. My recommendation is that the school district continue with Mark Terry. So the letter that we received from Merrick is just saying, could you please let us know, would you like to continue with Mark Terry at Stone, Chandler, and Miller? Would you like to have other legal representation from Merrick, or would you like to seek other counsel? And Mark starts with Stone, Chandler, and Miller on February 1st. So we need to take a vote to have continuity of legal representation. But the rates that he'll have with Stone, Chandler, and Miller will be the same. So it's literally just a vote to sort of acknowledge that he's moved to a different firm, and that the bill that we would be getting, now it's not going to have Merrick at the top of it, but would be a bill from Stone, Chandler, and Miller.
Questions, comments?
Tonight's my night. Are we going to be receiving a new contract from Stoneham, Chandler, and Miller to sign, which will reflect the rates?
I can have them send one, but I got clarity that nothing on the financial side's changing. It's just a shift in where his office will be and who the firm that will be billing.
I think the question tonight is change of firms for the school district's council is the question, not, so I just want to make sure, we probably should have some type of contract. I mean, we could.
What do we have right now, Scott? Do we have a contract with him right now? Or is it an agreement?
I think you just have an agreement with him as your legal counsel, so he's retained as the counsel. I can get a new rate sheet.
If all we need is an agreement, that's fine too. That's completely fine. Agreement, contract, whatever is going to officially bind it from Merrick over to Stoneham, Chandler, and Miller is what I'm asking. And we can vote to proceed with it, I guess. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
Motion to proceed with Stoneham, Chandler. Oh, thank you. Move that the school committee continue to use attorney Mark Terry for its legal services as he moves to the firm of Stoneham, Chandler, and Miller, effective February 1st of 2026.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, moving right along. To second readings of a few policies. Mr. Edwards?
Sure. Is everybody okay again if we take it all as one motion? Yes, all right. I make a motion that we accept file BDA, School Committee Organization, and file BDB, School Committee Officers, as presented in the packet.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right. Next on our agenda is FY26, Quarter 2 Financial Report. It's all good news, right, Michael?
It's news. There's a, there we go. So I've just, good evening, everybody. Michael McMillan, School Business Manager. I'm just presenting our FY26 Quarter 2 financial update. I have the this is the same document as is in your packs. And if I can make it a little bigger. I was just going to take you through some of the key points of this. I'm going to try. It's a little challenging. There we go. So right now, we have about 3.4% of the budget unspoken for, in that 3.4% has not been spent or encumbered for expenses that we already know we've got, like salary is the biggest one. So that is, I mean, and just, visually, if you look at this chart on the right, the dark blue box is how much we've spent or encumbered, and the light blue box behind it is the budget. And so, you can see that the size of the gap between the dark blue line and the light blue line has got smaller over recent years, and each one of these is a different year at the same point, quarter two. It's not, so we're definitely have a larger portion of the budget already spoken for at this point than in previous years. The average was around 5.8% over the last 5 years, so you can see that's a couple of percent difference. There are within that, we do have, for a number of reasons, around almost $500,000 worth of salaries that are currently in that dark blue block that will actually be moved over to a grant. Once we get approval from it, we have is for the special education or major special education grant. We're just waiting for approval to move those salaries over, and that will take that unencumbered, unexpended amount to 4.3%. So a little healthier and more in line with the last couple of years, but still, if you look back 5 or 6 years, it's still a little lower. And that's just really a reflection, and I'll go into more detail on this, but really a reflection of increasing costs in a number of places, utilities, special education costs, and we have the salary increases. And so we're just seeing, we're ending the year, we used to end the year with like a healthy surplus that we were able to, we would go back into excess and deficiency. Last couple of years, we're really finishing the year right around the budget figure. And, where you see that impacting us is in our budget requests. So in the past, that's, that as we get tighter and tighter, then our budget request is higher. And that's why, we're having the challenge that we're seeing with the FY27 budget, where we're asking for a higher percentage increase. So all these things are connected. So one of the questions I'm always worried about is, are we going to have enough money at the end of the year? Partly that 4-point-something% gives me some reassurance. This chart is a sort of plots out the total expenditure, not encumbrances, just expenditure, from each month of the year. And there's there's 3 lines, the upper and lower confidence bound, and our projection, which is based on the last 5 years. So I take the last 5 years and map that out as if, based on that trend, what we would expect to see this year. And then mapped on top of that is this slightly, this talking about contrast, maybe something we need to work on, but there's a slightly blue line underneath here, and that's our expenditure this year. So I can kind of see how it matches to our forecast to get a sense if there's anything really out of whack. So we started the year a little under trend, but we are kind of starting to creep closer towards that trend, and I expect we're going to end up maybe slightly around or slightly above the trend and closer to this green line, which is our budget. So nothing out of the ordinary, broadly on track, but likely to end up near our budget. Just a couple of other non-financial or financial adjacent highlights. With middle school construction project is ongoing. We're working with our vendor, Pearl Construction, to finalize the plans for construction to begin in April. We have a meeting on tomorrow when we're going to meet in person at the middle school and really pin down exactly the phasing, because as this project is going to start with during the school year, we're going to need to be very carefully phased, as we might have to move classrooms around. And so we're meeting with the assistant principal and the construction company and our project manager and a designer tomorrow to really pin that down. We do have a new facilities director, Matt Kosla, who started last week, just the day after Martin Luther King Day, and He is taking over from Rick Travers, who will be sad to see leave at the end of this month. But Matt's been pretty busy already with the snow and responding to all the work that's been going on, the snow day and everything else we've got going on. So he's been pretty busy from the get-go. It's been nice having, we've had this nice overlap where we've had 2 facility directors, which has been really nice given there's so much going on with responding to the snow. Speaking of which, we did get, as part of this year's budget, we've purchased a new truck. We did get a plough fixed to that, and that has been heavily used already, much more than we were expecting. And the Food Service Department just wrapped up a survey which they sent out to gather feedback from staff and students and families on the food that's served in cafeterias across the district, and now working on responding to that and seeing what feedback we get and how to improve the service that people receive in the cafeterias. So, all right, so then just back to the finances. This chart does something similar to the previous one, and you've got the dark blue line is expenditure, the light blue line is budget, but this time it's broken down. This is just the FY26 budget, and it's broken down by major account, which is a state comparison, a state grouping from the state chart of accounts, which is just nice because it's consistent and comparable to other districts, so it's a good place to start. And then on top of that, there's also, it's a little hard to see, it might be easier there, is a red line, which is the percent, this sort of marks the same percentage as was spent to this time last year. So there's a couple of different ways of looking at this. If the dark blue line is bigger than the light blue line, then that's a problem, because that means we've gone beyond the budget. And where you can see that right now is programs with other districts. So that includes out-of-district tuition that we talked about, but it also includes school choice and charter tuitions, 2 numbers which are coming down. So I'm hoping that once we finalise those numbers for this year, that'll help to offset that over that deficit we have in that major account. And I've also just underneath here, it just highlights other ones. So benefits and charges, it's health insurance, we're really close to the top of the light blue box with benefits and charges. There's one part of that is that our retiree health insurance is higher. We had a larger than expected increase in January. We saw a significant increase in the cost of retiree health plans. There is another issue there, though, that the way our accounting and payroll system works is that we have encumbered June's health insurance payments, but we won't actually have to pay those because July gets paid out of FY27. So when we get to June, those get de-encumbered essentially, and so that is an expenditure that we won't have to realise. So once you sort of those 2 things playing off against the increased cost from retirees and the encumbrance, which we won't have to actually realise, I think we're going to be on budget, but it is one of the ones we're watching. And then other teaching services, which includes, this is very close to budget, but that includes those instructional assistant salaries, which will be moving over to the grant, hopefully within the next few weeks. A couple of other things, as I mentioned, out of district tuition. Transportation is also over budget right now, and that's within one of those major accounts, and we're just waiting to see how that plays out over the next few months with additional needs. And then electricity and gas, as you can imagine, our gas bills are pretty high right now because of how cold it is, and also increasing rates, and likewise with electricity really pushing on our budget there. So we'll be watching those items to see where they land over the next few months. So there's more detail on each of those categories. I won't go into all that right now. And then we go into revenue. So revenue is broadly, so the first part of revenue, just this line is our assessments. So that is, scheduled payments from our towns. So we don't really worry too much about that. They're pretty reliable. We then have our state number. Our chapter 70 is actually slightly higher, is on line to be slightly above what we budgeted, because the actual final state budget was finalised after we finalised our budget, so we have a little extra there. That'll go into excess and deficiency. Interest is also on line to finish the year above budget, which is also good. The one other thing I wanted to highlight down here, I did break these out into a little more detail than in previous reports, partly to show you this $5 million, which is our borrowing for the middle school project. So we have received those funds to help start to pay for those costs related to that project, and I've highlighted just a few things. Our circuit breaker revenue is up due to higher expenses in special education last year, and those are really the key things I wanted to highlight. Student activities, there's a little bit more information on our student activities. That's all the accounts that we hold for student clubs and activities in the district. And our investments, which are still, as I mentioned, above budget, but we are seeing the rate of return on our investments come down, where last year we were looking at, 4 to 5%. We're now looking at 3 to 3.5%, 4%. So we are seeing slightly less coming in those investments. And that's it. So that's all. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot, pushing against our budgets. Less money available, but we're still on track to finish the year where we need to be.
Excellent. Questions, comments? All right.
All right.
Moving right along to our draft budget update.
So, yeah, there's no presentation on this evening, because I just wanted to provide an update. We got the state's budget was released yesterday, which is the state governor's budget, and there's a couple of numbers which are critical for us from that. The first is our Chapter 70 funding, and the second is the minimum local contributions. The Chapter 70 funding is critical because obviously that offsets the assessments, and sadly that was around $40,000 less than we were budgeting, so the state's rate of inflation was quite low, and so as a result, at this stage, the state budget, $40,000 is not insignificant, but it's not a huge change to where that we were landing. Equally, our minimum local contribution, it doesn't really affect the amount that's assessed to the two towns, but it affects the share between the two towns, and it was, the numbers were quite different from what we were carrying, but the proportions didn't change hugely, but it did move slightly more back over to Harwich because of the trends in enrollment. So I'm still picking through all the information, there's a foundation enrollment that underpins that. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of the foundation enrollment numbers that the state used. There is also the charter tuition number and school choice, which is based on current numbers, but gives us an idea where we're going. I'm still getting those finalized. Those might actually bring some relief to the budget, but we're still just, charter tuition's not out yet, and a school choice is not been finalized yet, but it should be over the next few days, and they should give us some relief, I hope. So that's state numbers. We did have a meeting of the steering group of the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. So we're really kind of looking at two scenarios at the moment. One is increases of around 10% if we don't cover the GLP-1 drugs, and increases of around 17% if we do. Definitely the consensus at the steering group meeting was that they would not be covered. So I think that suggests we'll be closer to 10%. And the treasurer of the group also presented on the current fund balance, and it does appear that there is the possibility to use the fund balance of the group to help offset our percentage increase. So with that, there is a possibility. Obviously, the vote's not been taken yet. We've got a couple of weeks for that to happen, and we have a lot of discussions before then, but it does look like we might be under 10% for the increase, between 8 and 10%. So that will help provide, because at the moment in the budget we're carrying 15%. So that would be that would help offset those at the Chapter 70 and substantially more. So that's good.
Okay. Questions? All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, we do not have subcommittee report out this evening. We will move to superintendent's report.
Many thanks to our custodians and the town DPW crews for their hard work earlier this week during the winter storm. This was a long-lasting storm, made cleanup even more challenging. They did a great job of stepping up to the task, and I'd also like to thank our staff, students, and families for their flexibility. We recognize that decisions to close and delay impact families in a number of ways, and we're always trying to balance the safety with the needs that families have and the educational needs of our kids. Next week is National School Counseling Week, so it's a great time to acknowledge the important work our counselors do, from supporting students and families to guiding academic and career planning. They're an integral part of our school community. Lastly, the College Board has announced that Monomoy Regional High School has been named to the 2025 Advanced Placement program School Honor Roll, earning gold distinction. The AP School Honor Roll recognizes schools whose AP programs are delivering results for students while broadening participation, and is based on the criteria that reflected a increase in the commitment to increasing college-going culture, providing opportunities for students to earn college credit, and maximize college readiness. For Monomoy Regional High School, the 2025 graduating class, 72% of our seniors took at least one AP exam during their high school time with us. 43% of our seniors scored a 3 or higher, and 29% of the seniors took 5 or more AP exams during high school. You can read more about this honor on our website. And then just lastly, this past Monday, Michael, Rob, and I would have gone to the Harwich Select Board meeting to present our draft budget in Harwich. Clearly, that was snowed out. We are on the docket for Monday, February 2nd, which, by the way, is Groundhog Day. And I am predicting that we have yet another bad storm on Sunday that may knock out that select board meeting, but no worries, there's a backup date for the presentation that would be Wednesday, February 4th, and those select board meetings in Harwich. The public, or the section that we'd be participating in, begins at 6:30 p.m.
And just to add to Dr. Carpenter's comment about the select board meeting in Harwich, if there is not a snowstorm and the meeting on Monday happens, Mr. Edwards, Mr. Clark, and I will all be at that meeting to interview the applicants for the vacant seat on the school committee. And also, like Dr. Carpenter said, if there is a snowstorm, we will be doing that on Wednesday. So, any other comments, questions? All right, we have had the presentation of warrants, so looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, we will adjourn our meeting at 8:08 PM. Have a good night, everyone.